Happy Sunday. First, I want to apologize because my internet is super wonky. Ever since the storm, the internet's been kind of off and on. So I apologize ahead of time, but I do have a special guest, and there's so much going on in the real estate world. First off, um, so the Fannie Mae, Eddie, you want to throw that up? Fannie Mae has changed their credit score requirements. So it used to be that if you had a couple that was on a loan, one of them had kind of crummy credit and the other one had high credit, they wouldn't even allow the person with the bad credit on the loan itself. They would only take the highest credit score. And then it would be harder for them to get a better interest rate. So now instead of doing that, they're averaging the two scores out so people can get better interest rates. And this will be a new thing that's coming out of Fannie Mae. This starts on September 18th. September 18th. This is the new guidelines from Fannie Mae. So if you're in the process of purchasing a home and one of you has shaky credit and the other one has good credit, this is a good thing. So both of you guys can be on the loan, and there won't be, you're just on the title but not on the loan. So I just wanted to let you know they're averaging out the credit scores so that way you guys can get a better mortgage payment and mortgage, oh my God, interest rate. Brain fart. It's Hurricane Ida brain farts. The second thing is, what is going on? Because we were told, and I was one to say this, like in the third quarter, I thought for sure, as we headed into the third and fourth quarter of this year, we were going to see interest rates drop. So this came out from Market Watch, and it says home prices rise at a record pace for the third straight month, with 6 cities leading the hot housing market. One city that wasn't on here, I was pretty surprised about. Go ahead and scroll down, Eddie. All right. Eddie's my producer. He's so good at this. Scroll up just a scotch, Eddie. I can't read that first line there. Okay. Home prices continue to grow at record pace in June, according to the leading barometer. The latest edition of the S&P Core Logic Home Price Index shows that the home prices increased 18.6% from a year ago in June, marking the third consecutive month of record growth in the 30-year history of the index. The separate 20-city index, which measures prices appreciation in major metropolitan areas across the country, saw a 19.1 year-over-year gain. Not again, a gain. We have previously suggested that the strength of the U.S. housing market is being driven by the reaction of the COVID pandemic, which we all knew, as potential buyers move from urban apartments to suburban homes. All right. June's data is consistent with this hypothesis. But what's been happening in recent months is large gains were recorded in Phoenix, San Diego, Seattle. In 19 of the 20 cities analyzed, home prices are at record highs, with Chicago being the only lone holdout. Meanwhile, 6 cities, Boston, Charlotte, Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, and Seattle, all saw record price over the past year. The one city that I was surprised that was not on this list was Austin, Texas, because I know they've had ridiculous. So I don't know if maybe in the last month they kind of leveled out, but that was something that was interesting to me. Okay. So to talk about this, I have a very special guest who has some major graphs, and she's pulled out the big numbers because she researched before she came on to this, because she's cool like that. Sara, my friend Sara Maslowski, I can't hear you. Uh-oh. Eddie, can you hear her? Uh-oh. Can you hear her, Eddie? Hold on. I can't hear you. Did I do something wrong? There, you turned off your, now try again. No. Holy cow. Is it just me? Eddie, can you hear her? Oh, let's add Eddie to the stream. Eddie, can you hear her?
I cannot.
Nope, we cannot hear you, Sara. Uh-oh. Do you have any other windows open? All right. So, Sarah's going to be coming here, but look, Sara, at the bottom, there's a little cogwheel that says camera and mic. So check to see if your audio is with the little cogwheel, if it's actually reading your microphone, because I cannot hear you at all, which is weird because I heard you earlier. because it might be pulling in the wrong audio. I know we can't hear her. We're trying. We're trying. We're going to get Sara. Sara. Oh, where'd she go? Oh, is the mic plugged in? She's gonna she's
You
gonna
want to
leave
come
and then
back? Yeah, go back
she's
in
gonna
and I'll
leave
bring you right
go
back
back
in.
in. That's okay. That happens to the best of us. I mean, my internet has been so wonky. And I don't know if anybody knew this, but last week we had a really bad hurricane come through the South Louisiana area. So my internet has been super iffy, super iffy. So
Okay, can you
now,
hear me now?
yes, that
Yay!
was weird.
Yes. Thanks for your patience. There's something like live technical difficulties.
Oh, please.
Yes.
I'm the queen of technical difficulties. So
Yeah. So I'm Sara Maslowski, and I serve the North Metro Atlanta area. And I'm so happy to be on with you here today, Kristina, and so glad that you and your family are safe and are able to do this live stream today.
Yay! Whoop whoop. Let's just hope it holds out, because I tried to do a live stream with guys, remember I did one I had I can't even think of his first name now. Anyways, Walters, he had me on his channel, and the live stream was kind of iffy on my end. Sometimes you couldn't hear me.
So, yeah, this is going to work.
This is going to work. So you have been looking at the numbers from NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, where it talks about the home prices increasing. And you even brought some numbers and charts here. So which chart would you like us to pull out first? Or does it matter?
Yeah, just whatever one you want to pop up first. So one of the things that is very shocking and surprising to me. So this was taken from the American Community Survey by CoreLogic in the first quarter. And I was so shocked to see that over 38% of homes in the U.S. are owned free and clear. So that's no mortgage. You know, that's just an amazing statistic to me. And that there's an average of 216,000 average equity of homes that do have a mortgage on it. And where this kind of comes in, where I see this kind of playing out in the marketplace every day, is I get buyers asking me all the time of kind of wanting to wait out for this flood of foreclosures that they think is going to come to the market. And these are two very good stats to kind of show why the marketplace is not going to be really affected by any foreclosures that may come to the market. You know, a lot of houses aren't even going to make it to the foreclosure status, just because there's a huge amount of equity in most homes where people could, you know, sell their home and still walk away from it and be able to pay off their mortgage loan, even if they are behind.
This goes exactly to what I was saying, which is this market is completely different than the housing market of 2008 and 2007, 8, 9, where we had a market crash because of bad loans. This market, this housing market, is being held up by cash, and those numbers are proving the point. Another thing is that a lot of people are waiting for the forbearance to end. And the last time I looked, it was 1.6, but it was dropping. And there's going to be a lot of people that are falling off the forbearance plan. And they are anticipating, a lot of people that are saying crash, are anticipating that all these people are going to head into the foreclosure process. But here's two things that I want to stand by. Is one is that these banks do not want people to be foreclosed on. That whole process is extremely expensive for lenders to go through. They don't want to have to do it. It takes more manpower, more money. They would rather restructure the loans. And that's what a lot of the big banks have said, that we're going to restructure the loans for the people that need it, so that way they can stay in their home. The second thing is that a lot of the people that were thinking about, well, maybe we should just go ahead and sell their home, even though they didn't pay their mortgage for a year, they're not going to, a lot of them, a good portion of them, are not going to be so underwater that they can't go ahead and sell it for at least break even, you know? So I think that if you're waiting for this big bubble to burst, and I was one to say it was going to happen. I can't see how it happens now. I've never seen as much cash going into this market as I've seen in this past year and a half. I didn't even know people had that much cash. I'm shocked. Young people.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. And here in our market, we're seeing a huge influx of like private equity firms buying up houses to hold those as rental properties for a long-term strategy. And they are buying homes directly from the bank, or have, deals worked out with banks so that they have those homes that maybe would have gone into foreclosure to save them that money, and they are selling them directly to these equity firms, which is
Right.
kind of solving that problem for them. And it's, causing those homes or those deals to never make it onto the market.
Right. So they package, this is what they do, just to
Yeah.
make it simplified. They take all, like they'll say, we have 40 homes in Baton Rouge that are in disrepair, that are under the foreclosure process. Yes, there's a few of them that are good, but we don't want to have to sell them. It's going to cost us too much. So a company like Blackstone comes in and says, we'll buy all 40 of them for this amount of money. And then there's a negotiation process. And then Blackstone comes in, they fix up the properties, and they put them up for rent. There's some people that will say that this, if you read some of the articles, they'll say, well, this is a good thing because, those properties were in such disrepair that, like, this is not a bad thing. It is a bad thing because it's eliminating the process of people that would normally want to get their foot in the door as far as real estate is concerned. And they would buy a home that they do need to fix up. So that way they could gain value over time. And it would be their stepping stone, because everybody knows that in order to gain personal or financial wealth, they do it through real estate. And sometimes this is the only way that anybody ever gains that kind of equity in something so they can retire on. A lot of people use their house as their retirement plan because they want to gain the equity. If these private equity firms take all away those houses and only use them for rent, what do we have left? Because we're not building houses for
Right.
people.
Not
And
nearly enough, fast enough.
and the houses that we're building are not affordable to the starting person that's trying to buy a home. They're super expensive. They're huge. And I can't blame the builders because, they want to make as much money they can per square foot, but that doesn't really help somebody that's trying to get into the real estate market just to own a home. So, what
Yeah.
you think?
It's very difficult for first-time home buyers, and that, situation that we just explained just kind of compounds that problem and makes it even more difficult for first-time home buyers. One of the challenges that I see as a real estate agent working with people that have limited funds, or they're very nervous about this market. I've heard from a lot of people that say they just want to wait until next year, or they want to put off home buying until things calm down a little bit. And the conversation that I'm having with my clients is that things may calm down a little bit. And instead of having 15 offers on a home, we may go back to the good old days where there was only 2 or 3 offers on a really great house that you're competing against. But these home prices are not falling, and they're going to stay this way for the next couple of years. At least that's what the experts are predicting in terms of home appreciation. So for me as a real estate agent, it's a hard hurdle to overcome to get clients to understand that they are not going to be saving money necessarily by putting off that home purchase until next year.
So what do you think about all these people that, I mean, anybody can go on the old interwebs that are, they have all these videos saying crash, 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 because I was even one of them. What would be the signs of a crash, What do you think? Why do you think they're doing that? Why do you think they keep putting out these videos if they believe that there's going to be a crash? What's the purpose?
Well, I think one is to, in some ways educate and speak to what, buyers and people are out there talking about in the marketplace right now. That is
Mhm.
the common perception is that there is going to be a crash. And, the common knowledge and reference that people have is the crash of 2007, 2008. And when you
Mhm.
look at those historic, increases in appreciation in home prices back then, it looks very, very similar to what is happening right now. And yet, if you dig a little bit deeper and you look into the differences between then and now, such as home loans, how they're structured, how much harder it is to get qualified for a loan, and how those bad lending practices are not taking place anymore, then you kind of get a better understanding of why this is not like 2007 and 2008, and why it's not a crash. I think a lot of people are really hoping for a crash because it
Mhm.
does feel unsustainable, not only to buyers in the marketplace, but also real estate agents. This feels like a really hard market to sustain for a long period of time. And I think one of those reasons that we're kind of sustaining this for such a long time is that interest rates have still been incredibly low. I think the moment that interest rates start to rise and, rise at a steady pace, then that's when we'll see a pullback on house prices. But until that happens, we're going to be right here where we are.
My biggest concern though is that when you look at areas that need like employees to, work in restaurants and, like do those low income jobs,
Yeah.
where are those people supposed to live? And you can see the problem in real time when you go to places like Venice and all around LA and even Austin, Texas, that the homeless problem has gotten huge. And I'm not talking like a lot of people have this perception of homeless as being, somebody crazy and they don't know how to take care of themselves. And it's not that. There's people that are just don't make enough to purchase or even rent a house, so they're living out of their cars. They're going to their job as a phlebotomist, from their car. They're sleeping in their car in order to work, but they have nowhere else to go. They can't find a place to live. And there's many reasons why people don't move, and that's a whole different story. The thing is that you can't have a city that runs on that's so expensive to live in and not have the places for people to live that need to work the jobs for everybody. So I don't know. It's going to me, there's an affordability crisis that everybody says, well, it's not unaffordable. Well, it's not unaffordable to you, but there's a lot of people. There's over, I think, 7.1 million people that can't find an affordable housing option. They have a job. They work. They can't find a place to live. That's a problem, a big problem.
Yeah, I think it comes from such a place of privilege to say that. And I think sometimes people also don't understand that not only are housing prices, like to go out and purchase a home, so expensive, but rental rates are increasing rapidly. And, it costs just as much to rent a house as it does to own a home. And
if not more.
In my area, that is a huge problem that you can't go find an apartment to rent. It's going to cost you just as much as it would to buy a house. And what I'm personally seeing is a lot of multi-generational families living together in situations where they would not live together, previously a couple of years ago.
I want to say I had my parents staying here for after the hurricane because we have a whole house generator, so I allowed them to be here. And there's a reason why we don't live with our family anymore after so many years. Just FYI, to make light of a tragic situation. I think that as we go into years to come, it's always one of those things that we've been talking about the affordability crisis for the last 10 years. And it's always been something that's been brushed under the rug because we all know big corporations run the gambit of what the narrative looks like. But there is a massive problem in, like, seriously, Venice Beach used to be the most beautiful area in California. Always kind of a little kooky, a little off, artsy fartsy, but now it's a complete tent city. It's the only city in California that declined in value during the pandemic, because of the explosion of homelessness throughout there. They have created whole tent cities for people, and they're like little communities within that tent city. It's terrible.
Why do you think that area became a magnet for people that are homeless or without houses? So that was the only city in California that declined in value.
Well, it's an older, it has a lot of older buildings, older area. And they've always had kind of a high homeless problem. So it's like, if you were newly homeless, where would you go? You would want to go around with other people that know what it's like to be homeless and tell you how to get through it. So I think it just gravitated to other people that were going through the same situation. That would be my estimate. I don't know that when I think about it at night, when I lay there at night going, how can we fix this? Why did this happen? Why are people going there? That's the analysis I come up with my head.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any questions, make sure you put the word question first so the moderator, it's just my husband, he's in the background. The moderator can throw it up there. I do want to say hello to some of the regulars too. Thank you so much. And I know that some people have emailed me for some requests for a real estate agent, and yes, I'm going to be getting to them this week. I just have had really bad, this is the first day I've had actually decent internet, and I don't even know how it looks on your end, but my internet has been so bad. But I will definitely be getting to your request for me to find you a real estate agent. What I do is I actually interview everybody that wants to find a real estate agent. So it isn't just somebody random that I pick off the old interwebs. I actually interview every single agent that I recommend to a client. So if you want to find a real estate agent, just email me at info@kristinasmallhorn.com. All right, Letty, go ahead and put up your first question. If Eddie would, is Eddie there? Poor Eddie. I'm going to add him to the stream. Eddie, are you there? Here we go. Liberty Returns, a longtime subscriber, a longtime watcher. Thank you so much for being here again on a Sunday. Question: do you think it would be better for everyone in the long run if prices go back down? If not, look at Canada and Australia for an example. You can go first, Sarah, and I'll throw my 2 cents in.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to the problem that we're currently having, and how helping buyers kind of navigate through as if what is the prices and how that's going to play out over the next couple of years. Based on researchers and economists that are much smarter than me, and what I have from that data to put my faith in what they're looking at, they're anticipating that home prices are going to continue to appreciate for at least the next 5 years. And so the conversation and coaching that I'm having with my clients is to find out, how important is it for you to be in a home? And, do you have the ability to wait 5 years to see how those home prices settle down? And for most people, that the answer is no, that they need a house. Renting right now is just as expensive as buying. And so, it's working with your real estate agent to find that affordable housing for you, and working with different strategies of helping you get into a house. But yes, in the long run, what we love for house prices to go back down, or at least to slow down so that there's more inventory. The problem is that there's not enough inventory right now for everyone that wants to buy a house. And so that's part of the reason that is driving up the prices of homes. So if we had more inventory available, that would also help kind of solve this problem. I wish there was a magic wand that we could wave to make the prices go down. However, that's one of the reasons that real estate is such a great investment.
I will say that that we would be having a totally different conversation right now if they hadn't had government involvement with the forbearance plan, because there were a lot of people that were really hurting at the very beginning. Thank you so much, VCG Construction, for the 1999 super chat. He said, beautiful thumbnail. I had to click. Thank you so much. I make those, by the way. We would be talking about a completely different situation, because as soon as this started, there were a lot of people that didn't know what the heck was going to be going on. And the home prices hadn't increased as much as they had over the last year. So I just never thought that the government was going to keep doing it, like keep kicking the can down the road. I mean, there's even some states have extended out the forbearance. It's still mind blowing. At some point, we have to pull the plug, but even if all those 1.6 million people, holy cow, this is bad. This is really bad. Yeah. I really thought for sure we were going to be in tough shape, but as everything has played out over time, it's gotten better, So, I mean, I don't know. Time will tell if this was the best thing for the economy for them to do. Right now, it seems like it was, but we really won't know the full ramifications of the government involvement in all this, with home prices and rent moratoriums, all those things. We won't even know anything for at least another 5 years. But I do think that the home prices are going to level out. Maybe in the toughest and highest markets like Dallas and Austin, they'll continue to increase. But 5 years of increase seems awfully long time. I'm thinking maybe 2. And I'm like, I still think they're just going to level out. At some point, buyers dictate the market, and so many buyers, and as well as I do, so many buyers are like, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing that. I'm not paying that for that. And it's getting to the point where just people are going to just get exhausted and not buy anything. So when that happens, then you're going to really see home prices start, ticking down. Nels DG says, question, what area is Sarah in?
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. I'm in the North Metro Atlanta area. So we serve kind of all north of the Metro Atlanta area. And if you need a recommendation for a Georgia agent, you can talk to Kristina or myself. We'll be happy to help you.
Just talk to Sarah. Just talk to. Hey,
Yeah.
do you just serve Roswell?
Yes. Yeah. You used to live there. Is that right?
Yeah, I would go Hornets. I was at Roswell High School.
Yeah. That's
I
great.
used to wear the fuzzy bee costume. I was the mascot for my high school, and I wore the fuzzy bee costume.
That's too funny.
Shocking, I know. I mean, I know that's probably really surprising.
Yeah. I used to work in a photography studio, and one day we needed someone to be the Easter bunny, and so I put on the outfit or whatever, and so I'm holding children in my lap, and I was in high school,
That's
and
fun.
the photographer was telling, trying to get the kids to smile, and after a while, I was like, man, my cheeks hurt. Like I'm tired of smiling, and then I realized, like, oh, I'm
You're the
wearing a helmet
mascot.
with a fake smile already planted on there, so I don't have to smile. But it's a very strange thing to be in front of a camera when people are telling you to smile and not smiling.
Question. Nels DG said, just to let you know, the Venice homeless problem has been cleared. How has it been cleared? Thank you for telling me that. I'm going to look that up after the stream. That is amazing. Now, do you know what they did in some other areas? They actually made it illegal for somebody to be homeless. So in order to clean up the streets, they arrested the homeless and put them in jails. That to
That's
me is
terrible.
like, what happened to humanity? What the heck happened to humanity? Like, why are we doing this? Being homeless is a crime. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyways, let's move on to the next question. If Eddie can, where did Eddie? What is Eddie? Eddie. Eddie's going to throw up something. Oh, he's going to do this. How LA cleared the most Venice Beach homeless camps and shelters, many unhoused people. Okay. How do they do it? I was going to look this up later because I don't have this is like
They
reading a
solved it, which that
story.
looks good.
This is like reading a story. Let's get to a question. I'll read it later. But thank you. That was really cool. I learned something new today. Now here I am trying to teach you guys. Question. With the increase in investor and home purchases, are realtors concerned about their role being marginalized? I'm not. I mean, like, I've organized my business in a way that I'm not concerned. How about you, Sarah?
No doubt the future of real estate, in my opinion, is changing, and it will evolve. And so long as you're adapting to change and willing to take that on, I think that's some realtors are going to get out of the marketplace, and some are going to survive and thrive. And those that are kind of going to be the ones that are already doing a really great job handling this market. There's always going to be investor owners in the marketplace, and there's more of them now, but then there's also always going to be individual homeowners that need to purchase a home. And that's, truly the value that you get in working with, a really great real estate agent, is being able to handle that. And there's no better time than when you need someone that really knows what they're doing than right now in this market. There's never been a better time to have a really great agent working for you to help you get into a home.
The idea of that a contract that you fill out is just words on paper couldn't be more wrong. And anybody that has been in this business for a good period of time understands the purchase agreement better than anybody else and knows how to construct that purchase agreement in a way that represents if you're working for the buyer, in a way that it protects the buyer so they're not out as much funds as possible. And it gets them out of legal hot water. Even in this market here, in order for my buyers to be protected, I understood the contract enough that they would be able to get out of their contract with their escalation clauses and all this other stuff without penalty and still be retaining their deposit. That's a real estate agent that knows what they're doing. If you just go online and just click in some numbers and throw in some words here, you're not represented correctly. So good real estate agents will last forever. Bad ones never did. CC Moon says, will Gen Z have it worse than millennials or the same? Worse. They're going to have it worse. There's no doubt in my mind. They can't. Okay. I mentioned this in the last stream. and you can throw your 2 cents in because I got really passionate. Sorry about that. The cost of living today is triple what it was for people that are my age, and the conveniences that were afforded to people years ago, like pension plans and how your company took care of you and retirements and even Social Security, those things will never be afforded to my kids. It's never going to happen for them. The cost of just even going to the dentist and medical care is so expensive. The cost of food is so expensive. The cost of just getting to your job is so expensive. And wages do not match how much the increase has happened throughout the United States. And there's hard numbers to show that. I mean, you can just pull up about any article that talks about this. But speaking of more hard numbers, I want to throw this up really quick. I know you can still see us, but whatever. So the potential growth in household wealth over the next 5 years based solely on income equity. If you purchased a $350,000 home in January 2021, they say in 2026 will be $443,629. That's what they're expecting the growth and increase over the next 5 years. So what do you think about that, Sara?
So if I could get this through my clients' heads and get them to understand this, I think it would help tremendously. And at the same time, it's also putting a lot of trust and faith into other people's numbers of what they've come up with. But that home price that's going to cost you $350 today, waiting until next year with the annual appreciation of what they're predicting, is going to cost you $380,000. So that's a $30,000 price increase. And that's assuming that you would pay that much more for it if interest rates hold true of what they're at today. But that slight increase of interest rates, all of a sudden that $380,000 house is going to be way outside your purchasability range of what you're comfortable with each month. So I think it's a hard thing to get buyers to understand how fickle these numbers are, especially when it comes to your budget. So with home prices expecting to continue to appreciate over the next 5 years, maybe this home that you're buying for the first time, maybe it's not your dream home, and that's okay. Maybe it's just that starter home that you're able to get into right now so that you can build up some equity and sell it in a couple of years, and then use that equity that you have and put it into that new house. So it's just
that's the whole American dream. Like take the equity in one house and throw it into another, but there is an affordable house for a lot of people to buy to do that. That's the part that it pisses me off. If I'm going to be honest.
I think that I don't know if it's a generational thing or maybe just an influx of all the television shows and everything that we get to watch these days when it comes to home improvement and house hunting shows. But everyone kind of expects that first house that you buy is really going to check off all the boxes and that you're just going to fall in love with it. And while that's the dream and while that's what I want for clients, sometimes that's not always practical or realistic, especially when you're working with limitations such as you have to be in a specific area for your job or you want to be within a certain commute. You can't have it all. One of those things are going to have to be given up. And for some people, that's taking that house that you can't afford and over time making it into what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my first house I ever bought was a piece of garbage. It was really terrible, but we fixed it up and we made a profit. When I saw that Logic, you can put that question up. I just wanted to say to Logic 1611, I wrote it down. German in Venice is a YouTube channel, and they said that they documented how they cleaned up Venice Beach. So that's extremely interesting. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Dr. Mellow Yellow says, question, how many houses does the average first-time home buyer look at before buying? Also, do you see buyers agents getting frustrated with buyers who are unwilling to offer at least 5% over asking? Go ahead there, Sara.
Let's see. So on average, prior to this market, I would show house buyers 5 to 6 houses before we made an offer and got a home under contract. Today, that's more like 10 to 15. And sometimes depending upon the budget and what we're working with, that could be 3 or 4 offers before we finally get one accepted. I think buyers agents getting frustrated with buyers, that's a buyer agent problem. And I say that because that buyer agent did not properly set expectations and have a really detailed conversation with their buyer
Amen.
prior to, going out and looking at houses. Now, I say that
Yep.
like with a caveat because I've had those conversations with buyers before, got them really educated on what's going on in the market. But for some people, until you actually experience it yourself and you're out there and you're looking at houses and you're wanting to make offers, sometimes it takes losing a couple of houses for that buyer to understand, like, oh, things are really this competitive in the market. So kind of going back to what Kristina said earlier, having like a really great real estate agent, super important. So if my buyers don't have funds to go 5% over asking, I'm coaching them that we're only looking at homes that have been on the market for at least 7 to 10 days. If a home in this market has been in the market for 7 to 10 days, that means it's either overpriced, there might be something wrong with it, or there's an opportunity for us to make a really great offer on the house where we don't have to pay 5% over asking or compete with multiple offers.
CC Moon said, "Can we all just say adulting is hard?"
It is.
True statement.
And add on to that, like buying a house is such an emotional process.
Boom,
I mean, it's so emotional and it's hard not to
boom.
be because it is, for most people, for myself, it's the largest investment that you're ever going to make with your money. It's where you're going to be living, 365 days a year. It's a very, very emotional thing.
I've been lucky with the buyers that I've had in the past year because they literally walk in a house and go, "Okay, let's just go ahead and make an offer." They already know. They're so educated at this point. They're like, "It's good enough. I just want a house." And I'm
Yeah.
like,
And
"Are
I
you
will,
sure are you sure you don't want to look at other houses? No, let's just do it. Let's get it over with." Because they don't even want to go through the hassle.
yeah. And I
They
will
don't even
say
go through
that buyers that educate themselves here on YouTube and they watch, agents in their marketplace talk about, what the housing market is doing. For me, it's made such a difference in my business to be able to work with those clients when they're ready to purchase a home because they've watched all the videos. They
Understand.
know exactly what's going on. And it's, it's a win-win for everyone.
Yep, they understand what's going on. All right, here. Question, should we buy under a trust or name? That depends on your financial situation. Now, that's a attorney question. My parents just went through this, matter of fact. They were going to put their house in a trust, and the inheritance attorney said, "Don't do that. Don't put it in a trust." And I don't know why, because that same attorney told my aunt to go ahead and put it in a trust. So I don't know what the difference is. That would be a total uh, attorney question. Now, if you have it for a business, now if you're trying to separate your personal from your business and because of any kind of like you're afraid of lawsuits, I always say buy your houses in a business name so that way you don't lose your rear end if you go bankrupt.
Yeah. And you can
Do that.
and you can always transfer it into an LLC after the fact of buying it. People do that all the time whenever they're buying investment properties.
Yep, true that. True that. Go ahead and throw this up. Burn It Up says, what I want to know is no one is talking about what will happen if those that stretched themselves this past year when home gets reassessed and taxes go up. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts there, Sara?
That is a great point. I can only speak to what I know here in Georgia. And property taxes are definitely something that you have to stay on top of and challenge your assessment, really get to know your local policies because those can be challenged. You're not always going to win, but at least here in Georgia, if you challenge your assessment, you're able to lock in that new assessment for 3 years, regardless of the outcome. So I challenge my assessment every 3 years just so I can lock in that assessed rate. So I don't know if that's something that other municipalities and other states offer. But that's a huge...
Every county is going to be different too. Every county,
Yeah.
like in our area, it's going to be different. I will say
Okay.
this too. If you're of the retirement age, that a lot, if you don't, like you should go to your tax assessor's office if you're at the retirement age, because some areas, some states have plans for assessed property taxes for people that are over the age of 65. So use that benefit so you can keep your taxes down. Here, they can't raise your taxes, your property taxes, X amount of percentage every year. Like it's capped out. You can't, even if the housing market, like my house tomorrow was worth $650,000, they can't all of a sudden give you your new tax property tax and say, well, now you owe it for 650,000. They have to incrementally increase it. They can't just slap it on you in one area. Now, I was told though by somebody else in Texas, and I don't know how true this is because I'm not a Texas real estate agent. They can just, it literally is what it is. And you get taxed out the wazoo, you're going to get paid those property taxes the next year. That sounds pretty scary to me.
One thing to note though, a majority of people do have their property taxes escrowed in with their mortgage payment.
Correct.
So once that mortgage company gets a copy of that new assessed value and that new tax bill, they'll give you an option most of the time to either increase your monthly payment by what that average needs to be to make that escrow account whole, or they'll give you the option to keep your mortgage payment the same and just write them that check or whatever needed to make the difference. So you are able to kind of work that in over time, but that's a great point. I'm so happy that your future is thinking about that and making sure that you have some money in savings so that you're not caught off guard if you do get that new tax assessment and you have a shortfall that you need to make up.
I pay mine separate. My house payment is different. Like I get a separate bill. It's not attached to my mortgage. Diane Wilson says, popping in for a minute to say hi with a $10 super chat. I will catch the replay tonight. Sounds like a great show. Thank you, Diana. Now I'm going to tell you it is a great show because we had a lot of information come in here and with some really good questions from the audience. And speaking of questions, let's go ahead and put up another one, my friend Eduardo. If anybody doesn't know, Eddie's the producer. He's also my husband. He's the one that puts up the questions. So you can't be mad at me if you don't like the questions that come up. It's him. Deborah Waters says, is there a site program that lists all the available land for sale in the U.S.? Land Quest? Is it Land Quest? You can't go to like one website to look up all the land that's for sale, because not only that, there's a lot of people that have their land for sale and it's for sale by owner. There's some that are doing lease to own. There's companies. Oh, this is a big warning, by the way. There are companies online that say, we have the land. You're going to buy it from us. It's only cost you X amount of dollars and you're going to pay us every single month. And then when you close, you're just paying them basically a rent payment to them. So it's almost like rent to own land. The problem with it is, do they actually own the piece of land? So if you're going to purchase one of these through one of the companies, I've had several people call me. I say to them, that sounds very sketchy. I mean, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah. Find out if that piece of property is actually owned by that company. And 9 times out of 10, it's not. It's not even owned by that company. So the best way to look for land in any specific area is always just to go to a real estate agent in that area and pull up all the for sale land, because they're going to know the area better than anybody. That would be my best advice. Even places like Zillow and Trulia don't have them all. The real estate agents are going to know them all. Right? Joe said, how can it be claimed homes that are now exclusively VRBO and Airbnb do not affect the market, but corporate home buyouts do? Both take homes off the market. How can it be claimed homes that are exclusively VRBO and Airbnb do not affect the market, but corporate buyouts do? Both take the homes off the market. Airbnbs you're saying that like people that take their homes and turn them into Airbnbs and make money off of them?
Or buying them as an investment property to have a VRBO or an Airbnb property. Mm-hmm. And so that's taking that opportunity away from, a first-time home buyer or someone like that.
Absolutely. It's still a problem. And
do you know
where they curbed that problem? New Orleans. Because there were people that were literally just buying houses to turn them into Airbnbs, and the hotel industry stepped in and said, oh, no. Listen here, politicians, we're not allowing for that to happen. You can't have an excess amount of Airbnbs in our area because you're going to make the sales of our businesses that have pumped money into this area for your tourists. You're causing us a problem. So they put a cap on how many Airbnbs. which kind of turned into a nightmare because there was a bunch of condo communities that were being built. They were solely for the idea of Airbnbs, and then that got cut off at the kneecaps.
I would also argue, yeah, sorry. I would also argue that if it's a single family home that's being turned into a VRBO, that you're potentially hurting that, neighborhood and that market further than what a corporate buyout would. A corporate buyout is typically going to rent that home out. Whereas, if I was living next to an Airbnb versus someone that had a 12-month lease on a home, I'd much prefer living next door to someone with a 12-month lease than having all kinds of people in and out of a house, all throughout the year.
Yeah, because they have the more vested interest to keep up the property.
Yeah.
I will say that if you guys are worried about it in your specific area, I would start going to your planning and zoning meetings. And then you can actually even have in covenants that are put in new housing projects that they can only have so many X amount of houses that are used for rental properties. Mm-hmm. Like they'll just say maybe 10% of the properties can be used as rental properties. And that's in your homeowners association covenants. And you can also say before a housing development is ever made, you can also tell them that none of these homes can be turned into Airbnbs before even the first house is even built and poured. So you start showing up to those meetings. That's the only way you can get it done, because most people don't even know that that's an issue. So if you start showing up to the meetings and start making your voice heard, then more people will start listening. Just a little thing.
I have a funny story on that. So I recently had a seller and we got an offer from one of these investment companies where they purchased the home, turn it into a rental property. And so a lot of these companies have rental restriction clearance issues. So they want to make sure that they're not purchasing a home in a neighborhood where there's a limit on how many houses that you can have for rent. And the seller told me that no, that this neighborhood did not have any rental restrictions. And of course, part of their due diligence and part of the closing attorney is making sure that that is in fact the case, or where it can be rented. Come to find out, it was a smaller HOA. They did have rental restrictions and they were at their limit. And so I called the HOA board president and told them the situation. They made a one-time exception for this house because these sellers were not the best homeowners in the neighborhood in terms of keeping up with their house. And so they made a one-time exception just so that, in their opinion, they felt like a rental company coming and managing this house would be better than these sellers that sold their house.
Oh man. Yeah. That's when you know your neighbors hate you.
Yes. They truly wanted them out.
Our house is the next elementary school's worth more. Our house is next to elementary schools. That is a wives' tale. That is one of those things that my mom used to always say. Well, homes near schools are worth more. And I think that was probably the case years ago when there wasn't public busing. There wasn't as much public busing. Now, even if you live across the street from the elementary school, this is no joke here in Louisiana. Even if you live right across the street, like all it would take is just you go walk across the street. You still have to get on a school bus to get to your house. They will not allow, because they don't want to be liable if anybody gets hit by a car.
Yeah, I would also say that dealing with school traffic, school noise, bus traffic, that could all, affect that as well. So something to take into consideration.
That's one of those things, though, that like I've heard my mom say that. Another thing that she says is that you never buy a house during an election year. I'm like, who the hell? Where does this come from? What does that have to do with anything? People are funny.
Yeah,
people are funny. All right, go ahead, throw up another one, Eddie. Every time I say throw up, I'm like, why do I say throw up? Bless your heart says, question: if y'all were going to buy into a completely new market, which would you choose and why? I know I have an answer for this. Where would you go?
Oh, a completely new market. Gosh, I don't know that I have a good answer for this one, but I love your username and you have got to be from Georgia.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Mine, if I like anywhere in the world, if it was a brand new market, I'm Portugal. I'm moving to Portugal. Absolutely. I've said it many times. Our big plan is to sell everything we have when we retire, sell it all and go to Portugal. That's where I'm going. They're really good to expats too. Really good to expats.
I will say that I recently had some clients that closed on a new construction home. They picked out the lot and we did this in February, March of this year. And so they just closed on it and moved into it. And so they're still constructing brand new houses in the neighborhood, finishing out their last phase. So we were under contract for their new construction home in the beginning of the year for $380,000. And if they were to build that home today with all the same upgrades that they did, same floor plan, lot premium, it would cost them $95,000 more to do that in the span of 6 or 7 months. So
wow.
if I would have known that, I would have bought that house and then turned around and sold it today.
Charlie Wallace, the $10 super chat, said, "This is a wonderful live. Thank you so much, ladies." Well, thank you, Charlie Wallace. We appreciate you for coming in and giving us a nice $10 super chat. Bless Your Heart says, "I'm from New Orleans, lived in Charlotte."
She lives in Charleston. No, that is a Bless Your Heart town. So
yeah. Oh, well, in Georgia too. There's
That's
lots
right.
of areas of Bless Your Heart all over Georgia. I don't. That isn't really a thing unless they're being sassy to you here.
Well, correct. Yes. If someone says "bless your heart," it's either a condescending, backhanded thing, or it
was
sincerely
it wasn't
empathy.
It wasn't so bad that when we were younger. There wasn't like that so much when I was younger. In the 80s and 90s, but then it turned into that over time. Who knew that something so kind can turn into something so awful? Killian One says, question, finding some that sellers that are overly honest on disclosure, and then others tell too many untruths, and why on them. Why? I always tell my sellers to over disclose. Like I tell them, like, if you took out a light bulb because it popped for no reason, you put that in there. If there's a crack in a tile in a bathroom, disclose it. When I sold my house, my disclosure was long. I wrote paragraphs because I was not going to be responsible for anything that happened to the house that I didn't disclose. But some people I do want to notice, and they just go check. And I'm like, geez, you're opening yourself up for a can of worms if anything happens with that house. What do you say, Sarah?
Yeah, I see that a lot, especially during home inspections, where the home inspector will discover like a water stain or evidence of a previous leak. And then you go back and you look at the disclosures and it's not on there. And then you ask the other real estate agent via the seller. And then they're like, oh, yeah, this happened. You're like, well, why wasn't it on the form?
I think that's because they don't know, though. They forget. They're like, well, it was a problem. We had somebody come out there. It's fixed, so it's not a problem anymore. So why do we need to disclose it? Because it's repaired. I had that happen with a water heater. There was another water heater in the attic. We have that water heaters here in Louisiana in the attic, which is unusual for some areas. And so did you have the water heater replaced? That's a question in the proper disclosure. And they're like, no, everything's original. And then we go up in the attic and they're like, oh yeah, we had that replaced 2 years ago. Why wouldn't you disclose that? That's actually a selling point.
I think a lot of people, especially if they've lived in their home for 15, 20 years, you can forget a lot of stuff that happens in 15 or 20 years. But I think to combat that, it's why you just need a really great home inspector and to do a really great, thorough home inspection to help to use that seller's disclosure as a guide and make sure that you're looking through that home with a fine-tooth comb. That's what I would have
something I want to show you. This will make you laugh.
Yeah, where did you go?
Right here. This is gonna make you laugh. This is all the stuff I've done to my house with receipts and everything. Like,
oh wow,
this goes to whoever purchases my house. I give that to them. I give that to the seller, to the buyers, because I want them to know everything. Pest control, servicing of my I have a whole house generator.
Yep.
Yes, HVAC system. All of those receipts are in here. And I go, here you go. And they go, what do you want me to do with this? I'm like, I'm just letting you know this house was taken care of the whole time I was here. And these are all the receipts that go with it. And I give it to them. That's done.
That is golden. It's rare to find a seller like you. And whenever I do find them for my buyers, I make sure that they understand like what a gift that is to be given all of those receipts. It's truly is a gift.
And I even have the purchase of the generator, the original receipt to the generator.
You never know.
I'm a freak.
That stuff.
I know. Well, I guess being a real estate agent, I have a fear of being sued. And, there's some people that just do things just to sue people. So I'm going to be like, I was responsible. I gave them everything. And yes, I do photocopy all of those pieces of paper, and I had them on a drive on the cloud. So that way, if it was to come up, they say they didn't receive that. I'm like, liar, liar, pants on fire. I got it right here. Hi, I'm the first time home buyer in LA. Like LA as in Los Angeles or LA as in Louisiana? Let me know.
Right.
What do you think about purchasing a house adjacent to a community playground with a school rating of about 5? If the property values are holding up there, I would totally do that. I don't have a problem living near a school. I'm sure there's going to be some buyers that have a problem with it, and there's some that
Right.
won't. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially, I mean, right now, just the fact of being able to invest and have a home that you can purchase and buy is fantastic. That school rating of a 5, I'm a former teacher and I deal with this a lot when it comes to prospective home buyers. A lot of home buyers get caught up in the school ratings. And I understand that it's an easy thing to get caught up in, and it can also kill your home search if you're only focusing on those school ratings and you don't directly have kids in that school or their school age children yet. And the reason why I say that is because there's some fantastic schools out there that, for whatever reason of how they aggregate data and the population of students at that school, that school rating can be a misnomer or not a true reflection of how wonderful a school can be. So I'll just kind of throw out the disclaimer of not get too caught up
I'm
on
that
the school
person.
rating.
I'm that person. I only search for houses. For me personally, I only search for houses in a school area that has high rating. Even if it wasn't, even if I didn't have children, I would do that because
Yeah.
I know that they sell better, they sell quicker, and sometimes they'll for a lot more money because they're in areas that have higher school ratings. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, they do.
But if you're buying your
And
first home, though, you know, like
yes.
the first home that we bought, we had babies. School rating there was It wasn't as great. Didn't really care because I knew it was just a starter home. I was going to sell it and move on to get the equity in another house.
Yeah.
Yep. Is your husband Latino? Yes, he is. Eduardo is. He has a very Eddie. His name is Eddie, and our last name is Smallhorn. Couldn't be less Spanish sounding in the world. His mother is 100% Colombian, and his dad is a United States American. So, you know, that's how that came about. But yes, he is very Spanish. Critical thinking, try it, said, question, I have been thinking about buying land in Sprague, Oregon through the lands of America. Have you heard of it? 2.4 acres for 18 to 24,000. I would do your due diligence in any of these homes or any of these pieces of land that you're buying through the internet where you're not actually having like a due diligence process where you are. Yes, I've seen this site. Please do your due diligence. That's all I'm going to say. Do your due diligence. Find out if they actually own the piece of land. Make sure that you have an attorney look over that contract because it does not represent you fairly. So be sure to dot your I's and cross your T's before you sign on the dotted line with buying any kind of piece of land on the internet that you can't physically go to yourself, touch and smell and look at. You don't even know what you're buying. So just be careful. Buyer beware on that one.
Yeah, but sounds too good to be true. It typically is.
Yeah, no credit check. Just
Right.
sign here. Hand over some money to us. It's low. It's only $250, and you're going to have this piece of land. Something, and it's only $57 a month. Kristina says scary. Kelsey says, question. Looking at 30 acres land, we want a forever home and a hand down later. Oh, okay, like inheritance property. Or would it be smarter to right now to buy a temporary acreage to sell and make profit in a few years? What does WWKD mean?
Good question. What would Kristina do?
Oh, what would
Look at
Kristina
that.
do? Oh, thank you, Kelsey. What would Kristina do? I need to buy in the country. For me, I would want to buy my own land. I'm not like I would just settle down, buy your piece of property, and get moving with this inheritance property. Like I just jump all in and get it all done. That's what I would do. What would you do? What would Sarah do?
I guess if you're asking, like if you have the opportunity and you can afford to buy buy the 30 acres, maybe build a smaller house that can one day be a guest house, and then you're building your bigger forever home later on that property. If it's like too good of a property to pass up. But if the goal is to be, in a house now and you need a certain size requirement to fit your family, then buy that smaller property.
Absolutely. But I'm always like, um, when it comes to buying something and you're kind of like, I'm not sure if we can afford it, but you're kind of on the cusp. Like my husband and I have always been a little bit more gutsy than normal. And we're always like, we'll make it work. And we always do. We always do. It always works out better for us too. We always do. Don't be afraid. Bianca says, look, buy my starter home in Orlando market. Any advice? Yes, I would advise you to speak with a real estate agent in your area that you like. Interview a lot of them. If you don't like the first one, they give you the icky feeling, move on to the next one. I actually know a really good one. His name's Ken Pozak, and he actually has a YouTube channel in the Orlando area. Do you know him, Sarah? Ken
Yes.
Pozak?
Yeah. He's fantastic. Yeah, he's a great agent with a great team. And I think any like really great question for buyers interviewing agents right now is to ask them what are some strategies they've used to get buyers under contract in this market. I would look at their stats, ask them to tell you the story of their past couple of buyers and how they got a house. And that's really going to be telling if they're telling you the truth, and if they're able to tell that story and give you details. Those are things that I would want to know if I was interviewing an agent.
My favorite question to ask is, what is it that you do different as a real estate agent that the person down the street doesn't do? What makes you unique as a real estate agent? Because anybody can fill out lines on a contract. What is it that makes you stand apart from the rest? And if they are stumbling over their words or they sound like, well, I've been in the business for 15 years and they're not giving you any real stuff, just a bunch of word salad, fluff nutter sandwich, you move on to the next one.
Yeah, great advice.
Great advice. Boiled nuts, my favorite nut in the whole entire world, says questions. Are contingencies still being waived? In my market, they are. What about yours, Sarah?
We're seeing the strongest offers are ones that have the financing contingency waived. I personally have still been able to get buyers into houses without having to waive home inspections, which I would never, recommend to do to my clients. But yes, waiving appraisals and waiving financing contingencies is very important. And there's some really good education and things that you can work with your lender ahead of time and your real estate agent to really kind of study that, to see like what are the potential impacts. If you do waive those, what are the negative impacts that could have on you, and kind of talk through the pros and cons of that.
So instead of like making my contracts look like we're waiving, it still looks like we're waiving inspection, but we waive inspection up to X amount of dollars. So what we're saying
Yes.
is that the inspection period is we're still taking the inspection period. We're going to have the house inspected. We're not going to ask for any repairs unless they're over $10,000. So that way, that way the buyer can walk away. Because if you're looking at a house and it looks like awesome and you have that inspection done and they're like, you need a $30,000 roof and a new air conditioning unit, like the buyer should be able to walk away from that. And agents that are not experienced and don't know how to construct a contract correctly, they've missed that. Some of them have missed that for their buyers. And I always feel sorry for those buyers because they got roped into a house that's going to cost them a lot to fix. And so just know that. And yes, you can sue your real estate agent for that, by the way. Liam A. Prez says, is it better to buy this year or wait until 2022? First time buying in California and the prices are ridiculously high. Thanks. What is your opinion there, Sarah?
Well, according to the National Association of Realtors and some other economists, they are predicting that home prices next year, year over year, are going to appreciate about 8% compared to this year, which I think was between like 16 and 18% on average for most places in between 2021 and 2020. So that tells me that home prices next year are still going to be more expensive. So if I were you and in your shoes, I would find that home now.
Here's another little thing that you put up there. So this was the month-over-month change of inventory in the United States over the past year, correct?
So this is month over month change, yes. And what we're looking at here is we're seeing that we're getting more inventory coming on the market in most places, which is helping, kind of cool down that appreciation of home prices. And it's at least in my area, instead of having, like I said, 15 offers on homes, now we're seeing, 5 to 8 offers on really great houses. So a little bit less competitiveness, but still very competitive, at the same time. So any increase in inventory is definitely helpful.
Yeah, we will. I don't know where they're getting the 11%. I guess it depends on the area of loss in Louisiana. Is just crazy to me. But this is the other one. The forecasting in for housing appreciation will begin to return to historic norms when? What does this
Yeah.
mean?
So historical annual average appreciation is between 3 and 4%. So we'll get back to those levels in 2023. But this is kind of like really great stats that I like to share with my buyers when we're talking about home prices overall. So what this tells me is that if we buy a home in 2021, that home price is still going to continue to appreciate over the next 4 or 5 years, and that you're still going to see an increase in housing prices, according to the economists that answered this survey, for the next 4 to 5 years.
And this came from Core Logic, which is part of NAR. So
Yes.
I just, yeah, we didn't make those up. Don't shoot the messenger is what I'm trying to get at. All right. So do we have another question to put up there, Eddie? We just answered that one, Eddie. Eddie's on the, oh, we're gonna have to fire our producer, Sarah. Poor Eddie.
So many of them to keep up with.
Question: What are agents who push buyers into these overpriced houses going to say to those that lose their down payments and equity on the bust? I have some opinions about this. Go ahead.
So the conversation I have with my clients is, at the end of the day, it's not my money, it's their money. They are the ones in the driver's seat making this decision. I'm just the person giving them the best possible advice and help facilitate their home sale purchase while protecting their investment. Over time, real estate is always a great investment. And then, yes, we're going to have ups and downs, but real estate should always be kind of like a long-term investment. And one of my clients that they were looking at, drastically going over the purchase price or the offer price this year on a home, they were going to cover an appraisal gap. I knew that there's a potential that there's going to be quite a significant appraisal gap. And the conversation I had with them is that, is this your dream home? Are you going to be in this house for 10 plus years? And guiding them through that thought process. But at the end of the day, it is the buyer's decision. So I think it would be a little bit unfair to turn around and place that decision back on a real estate agent.
But I will say there are agents, and you know this as well as I do, that do push buyers to do things that they're uncomfortable with because they know that they can. And some of those, there's always bad apples in the bunch, and there's going to be some agents that are going to be paying the price in the long run. I just know for a fact that if, like, there was a situation this year where the girl was overbidding. It was a for sale by owner. The appraisal came in short by a lot, and she was willing to cash in her 401k to fill in the gap because the seller wasn't going to sell it for less money. And I explained it all to her in an email. So that way I had documentation that she was doing this on her own accord, that I was not, that this was not a suggestion that I had made to her. This was on, and she's like, yep, I really want this house. This is the house I want. I'm willing to do this. So it wasn't me, it was her. And so that way, if a real estate agent is smart, you have this all documented, that there wasn't a suggestion or a push from us as real estate agents. But some people are going to get themselves in hot water. There's no doubt in my mind. But just like in the past housing crashes, bad apples end up rotting and falling away. They do. They do. Yep. We got another question there, Eduardo. So Eddie keeps pulling up the same questions.
Maybe he thinks our answers aren't good enough.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't like it. Question: thoughts about land? How does land typically lead to market downturns in your area? Does it, Sarah?
Oh, well, there's a shortage of land or available land for development in my area. So, in the more rural parts, there's land available for purchase, but that's a certain type of buyer that wants to be in those areas. So I don't know that I personally have enough experience to give you a good answer on this one, other than the fact that I just don't do a whole lot with land because it's all used up where I'm at.
All right. So if you take an average of the whole United States and you look at land never really increases in price exponentially. It takes a long time for it to slowly but surely tick up. It's pretty slow. So if you're trying to buy a chunk of land and make a lot of money on it, it's going to take you years. because most people don't want to put in the effort that it takes to put improvements on that land. Once you add improvements to that land, then of course your value goes up, but you've also made a bigger investment. Land typically is not something you lose your shirt on. Most people that buy land, they know they're only going to make a small profit on it over a long period of time. So I wouldn't worry about investing in land. That's if you plan on holding on to it for a long time. It's not one of those things like I'm going to flip it. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, exactly. It's not like a flip property.
Right.
you know, people don't flip land very often.
Yeah.
So do we have I know I've seen more. Eduardo, here we go. Do most people who buy investment properties pay in cash? Is it generally not recommended to buy investment property if you're required a mortgage? Thanks. Love y'all. Oh, thank you. What is your opinion on this?
So, gosh.
No.
Ideally, right. Ideally in a perfect world, yes, would everyone buy properties with cash? Yes. And for most people, that's always going to be a very unrealistic goal or thing that it's going to take a long time to achieve. I
think he's referring to people that are investors. Are the investors buying it cash, not just the average like mom and pop? He's talking about big investors.
Well, yes, there's a big investors are buying properties in cash. But if you are going to require a mortgage and you can't afford to buy a rental, investment property with cash, tons of people, do mortgages for investment properties. It requires a greater percentage down, 20 to 30% on average, depending upon your credit score. And a lot of people use that investment strategy to get into investment properties.
Do you know what a lot of my investors do is they buy it cash and then they refinance it after it's all the paperwork's done. Like they buy it cash so that way they can get it, and then by the time it's closed and everything else, they just roll it all in there afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah. So, question. Joe has a question. VRBO, Airbnb, corporate buyouts, and REITs are so bad for the market and families. How do agents and citizens end them? What's been done to ban and end them? People's lives are held back. I don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a blessing and a curse. So, I've directly dealt with some of these corporate buyouts, buying homes directly from my sellers, and the homes never go to the market. And for the sellers, it solves like a very great problem that they have, where they have young children at home, or maybe their house is in need of repair, that they don't have the financials to do the repairs, nor the time, energy, and effort. And it's been a blessing for them to have like a really competitive offer on their home. However, on the flip side of that, I also see that, gosh, here was a great opportunity that first-time home buyers, or that the market didn't get a chance to see or have a chance to purchase that home. Like Kristina mentioned earlier, a lot of neighborhoods with restrictive covenants are moving towards models where they don't allow any rentals whatsoever. And so for the corporate buyouts, Airbnbs, VRBOs, that's eliminating those type of investors coming in and purchasing homes in those areas.
Yeah. I know that when those REITs things came out, I was like so confused on what that was. And then I was like, oh, this is genius. And then I got into it, I'm like, this is not good for the average person. Like we need to have, my whole thing is that since World War II, they know how to fix the problem with affordable housing for low income families. And we have the blueprint. We could do it again. It's just that corporations don't want that blueprint. And I don't want to, don't get it twisted. I do not want people to lose the equity that they've earned in their houses. That's not how I want things to go. I want the market to even out. I want it to be fair for buyers and sellers to have a competitive, negotiable market, which is not at this moment. And I want more affordable homes to be available to people. And we could do it again. I mean, we've done it before and we can do it again. That's the market I'm looking at. So anyways, that's my dream. That's my utopia. Question. Is there any interest with Louisiana in real estate that has been different because of its French Norman civil law? Yes. Yes. There's all sorts of laws here in Louisiana. One of them is inheritance law. And inheritance law here in Louisiana, it doesn't go to the spouse. So if Eddie was to kick the bucket tomorrow, all of my everything, even though we've earned it together, doesn't go to me. The kids get a portion and share of it. And I have to ask basically permission to remain in the house to take care of those kids, but it's their portion, not mine. Wild, right?
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, that's why it's important to have a will here in Louisiana. But there's all sorts of other. That's a drastic take. That I did a video years ago on it. It's called Naked Ownership. That's just one of many. And then the way we handle property disputes too is completely different. So just know. Here we go. Title work on houses and property gets, especially old inherited land, can get really messy.
Yeah,
Really messy crazy. Because, Debbie Brandy says, your dreams coach says, can you put a clause in there that requires the house to be able to obtain a mortgage that may prevent buyers getting caught into a bad situation? Can you put in a clause that requires the house to be, well, that's part of the contract anyways. That's like, well, I mean, it's part of our contract. Isn't that a part of your contract too?
Yeah, so you have to disclose how you're paying for the house, and really the only options are, cash or a mortgage. I would say that 80% of the people that I work with are obtaining a mortgage to purchase a home.
Right. And we, on our state, we have to not only tell them how much their mortgages, we're telling them exactly how much they're putting down. We have to
right.
Here's the offer amount and here's how much they're putting down to purchase that house. And then in reality, it seems like why is that anybody's business? Well, because your offer looks stronger instead of having like 100% financing, but your offer is like 40% financing and the rest of it, they're paying cash. Well, that's a good buyer. They really want this house. That's a good buyer in comparison to somebody that was doing 100% financing. Just, that's already in there.
And I think maybe to speak a little bit more on that, I don't know if she was getting to this, but it's like a FHA loan or a VA loan, they're going to have certain requirements, health and safety requirements of that house that have to be met in order for that lender to loan money on a home. Whereas if you're paying cash on a house, you could, buy a dilapidated piece of property and no one's going to care. So I don't know if that had anything to do with where you were thinking about with your question.
Everybody's like, I'm reading some of these comments and they're laughing about our laws here. There's so many that are here that are really, if you really want to go down a rabbit hole of crazy laws, Louisiana's got probably the top weirdest laws. Question: we have been on hold to build because of the high prices on construction materials. Now is the time to go for it. Should we build or go for a smaller build? We have been gifted the plans to 3,900
square foot. 3,900 square foot house.
Yeah. That's a big old house. That's a lot of that's like a lot of cleaning. That's a lot of cleaning. The construction prices are not going to go down anytime soon. The delay in construction is still there because we have a supply chain problem that we've had since the beginning of the pandemic that is not getting any better. If anything, it's getting worse. So that's something to consider. Even with the high prices of construction, it's still going to remain high for quite some time. What is your opinion about this, Sarah?
If you need that big of a house and that is something that fits your family and your goals, I would just say go ahead and go for it now. I don't see a need to wait and wait for those home prices to go down. You could be waiting years for those material prices.
I would say ask your real estate agent, if you're working with a real estate agent, to say that this is in stone, it will close at the X amount of dollars, because what a lot of and this was something that was new, came out of the pandemic, never seen it before in my life. Apparently pretty common in California is that you agreed upon a price with the home builder. Let's just say it was $350,000. Then it got closer and closer to the day of closing. And now they're saying, well, I know that we negotiated a price and we said it was 350,000, but because of how long it took us to build, because we were delayed on building materials, it's now going to cost you 450,000. And you're in bad shape because you can't qualify for a $450,000 loan. And guess what the builders do? They do not care because they know there's 15 other people that will purchase it for 450,000. You can have an addendum attached to that purchase agreement that says this will close at this amount of money by this time. And if it doesn't close by that time, then yes, you have to give a timeline so that way the builder is protected and you're protected. So that way you can buy that house for the price that you negotiated. Make sure you work with a real estate agent that understands builder contracts, because the builder contract is not the same as a state contract. It's not designed to help, or it's not designed to protect a buyer buying a house. That's for sure.
Yeah. I would add the caveat there too, though, that it's also going to be very difficult to get the builder to agree in some circumstances to any additions to a builder contract, depending upon the market and especially the neighborhood. You might have a builder tell you, go kick rocks, I'm not making any changes.
Right. The big builders are going to do it. Yeah. The big
smaller custom builder.
Right. The smaller custom builders will work with you a little bit more. Yeah. Just FYI. CC Writer says, I have a 4-plex that I've converted to a 5-plex without city permission. Will this be difficult to refi and sell? I live in Southern California.
I'm not an expert in this. However, given the fact that you live in California, which has a lot of more stricter rules and regulations, I would think that, yes, you probably are going to have a difficult time. And I would think that you should seek the advice of a local real estate agent.
An attorney.
More. Yes.
Yeah. And a real estate attorney as well. You might be paying for those permits after all, and double what you would have if you just got it permanent in the first place. Right. California is really tricky, really tricky. You can't get around them quick. They'll get their money one way or the other. All right. Do we have any more questions, Eduardo? Oh, did Lawnmower leave? I have a subscriber. His name's Lawnmower.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. See, look how he spells it. Lawnmower.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that cute? Eddie, do we have any more questions? Here we go. Question: do you think a downturn in the market will occur in the next 2 years? I say it's flattening. What are you going to say? In 2 years, you still think it's going to go up for the next 5, right?
I definitely think it's going to be cooling down. I don't think that we're going to, hopefully, we're not going to find ourselves in bidding wars 2 years from now. I think it'll kind of be back to the days where you can just go find the house that you want, make an offer, and more than likely you're the only person that's making an offer at that time on the home. But based on the research that I've done and the experts, I don't think home prices are going to go down, but I do think the competition will go down.
I think it's going to flatten.
Yeah.
It's going to be flatten.
And that would be a welcome change.
Yeah. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. Do we have any more questions, Eduardo? Or are we good? And here we go. Logic 1611 says, question: looking to sell my home in Oceanside, California, to buy a 7 to 14 acre land in Tennessee or Ohio. Home prices here in North County, San Diego, are projected to go up to 15% in the year. Should I wait? That's kind of like one of those things. If it was me, if you could wait and you want to gain more value so you can get more land in places like Tennessee or Ohio, I would, because you're going to get the most value. You're going to get the most profit projection from California than most other places. And that's what most Californians did. They felt like they won the lottery when they moved out of that state. I mean, my dream would be to own a bunch of land, have a little tiny house on 4 acres and not be around nobody. Can you imagine going from San Diego in a house to buying 14 acres? Being like, thank you, sweet Jesus. Life is so happy. What would you do, Sarah?
Yes. I think it all kind of depends on your risk tolerance or how well you handle taking that risk. Obviously, all the experts are predicting that increase. And the other part of that is that you do know what the market is exactly right now. So that's just a calculation that you're going to have to take into account for yourself. But if I were in your position, I would wait.
Oh, totally wait, because I mean, if you look at history, California is always going up. And even if it started to go down, you still would have a
more equity.
So much equity that you could put into another state that's much less expensive.
Yeah,
that's
true.
So anyways, look, Sara, we've had you here for an hour and 24 minutes. Do you still need to go, or can we still have a couple more questions?
Yeah, I have about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
fine.
5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. Go ahead. He said that our internet's wonky.
Yeah, it just started getting wonky.
Okay, maybe that's my internet tolerance. All right, let me throw Eddie ran out here just to tell me that. Immersion Experiences, great channel name. Hi, Kristina. Can you explain more of what you're talking about? You said that some of your clients buy with cash and then refinance as soon as they purchase. Can you explain more? Yes. So some of my investors, in order for the offer to look strong, they come in with an offer of cash. After the home is purchased, they go to their corporate banks that do these kinds of loans, and they say, hey, we bought this house for cash. We want to go ahead and put a loan on it. And that's exactly what they do. They go ahead and put a loan under it. And they have other companies that they put the new purchase on under. So they'll purchase it under their name as cash. Then they go ahead and go to their bank after it's closed and say, my LLC wants to go ahead and purchase this piece of property. And that's what they do. That's what they do.
One of the things to note about that is that typically, though, your interest rate is going to be a little bit higher to take out a loan after the fact if you paid for it with cash up front, or at least that's been my experience working with my clients.
Yeah, they don't care. It's all write-offs for them.
Yeah.
They don't give two flying poops. These people are buying lots of houses and whatever.
Where I've personally seen that come into play with me is when we're making cash offers on behalf of buyers where they have the ability to pay for cash, but they want to take advantage of the really low interest rates. In the state of Georgia, on the cash exhibit, you can state that you have the ability to pay for it with cash, but that you also reserve the right to obtain a mortgage on the home. And so that can be utilized too, where you show that you have proof of funds to purchase the home with cash, but you end up getting a mortgage on the home. And so some sellers are like, we'll just go ahead and pay for it with cash and get the loan after the fact. And that's where, personally, you might kind of see that come into play if you get a loan after the fact for your personal home.
Great information, Sara. Well, listen, my internet has literally and so has my cup of tea, my overly sized cup of tea. So we've hit the bottom. I want everybody to make sure you hit the like button on the way out. If you have any questions for Sara and I, make sure you put them in the chat once this video has been out to the interwebs. You can put it at the bottom and we'll answer your question. Sara, thank you so much. And if you haven't yet, Sara has her own YouTube channel here. Look at that. Moving to Georgia, looking so cute. You can get her information right there. So you go ahead and do it to Sara. All right, everybody, you have a fantastic week. Thank you so much. And please, if you haven't yet, think about the people that have been affected by Hurricane Ida. It was not just us. It's all the way through the country. So bye, everybody. Let's do a little wave. Goodbye.
Oh.
We're doing this. I do